Hi, and welcome to the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins. I am a modern mystic, and I am here to share with you the beautiful wisdom and stories from women that desire to lead their lives inspired by the divine within them. The divinely inspired woman is devoted to walking the path of her soul's calling, tuning into the divinity within to navigate life with ease and grace through all circumstances. She cultivates beauty in her daily life. She is here to share the most authentic self each day through thick and thin. So I hope you'll enjoy our show today and that you will leave with an infusion of inspiration for your soul and for your day and living your life. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins, and welcome to season 2, where we are exploring the voices of Gaia, the new earth leadership archetypes. And today I have a wonderful wisdom keeper goddess, Abigail, with me, Mensah-Bonsu, and she's just pure light and pure magic. And we're going to be having a conversation here today about her alchemy. But beforehand, let me just tell you a little bit more about her, specifically about the work that she's doing, and then she can share more details. Abigail is a highly regarded spiritual guide, mentor, an international best-selling author and publisher, empowering women to embody and express their divine essence and live purposeful lives. Through holistic coaching, energy healing, DNA activations, and goddess mentorship, she guides clients on a profound journey of self-discovery and empowerment. With a heart-centered approach and rich spiritual lineage, Abigail mentors women to align mind, body, and spirit for true transformation. Her compassionate presence and profound insights help individuals explore their inner landscapes and unlock innate abilities. As an accomplished author, her international best-selling books inspire readers worldwide with transformative wisdom. Abigail is a beacon of light, guiding women to embrace their divine essence and discover limitless possibilities within themselves. And she most certainly is all of that and more. I am so grateful, and I feel blessed for you to have come into my world, for our worlds to have met. You truly do empower women to share their divine essence. And I want to hear about what you are up to, what is present for you today, and the alchemy that you're doing out in the world.
Well, first of all, thank you, sister, for having me. I love the work that you do. And, it's funny because we're talking about alchemy. And I'm like, I have my peacock feather. I love peacock feathers. I can't get enough of peacocks. I wish I could have a peacock, at my house. But,
you did.
they require bigger lands, bigger space. I love them. And one of the things I love about them, I remember hearing this story of how they receive this vibrant colors in their feathers, and they're able to, they kill poisonous snakes and eat them, but the poison doesn't poison them. It doesn't kill them. It gets transmuted and expressed as those colors in the feathers. And the part that made me love them is the fact that they can kill poisonous snakes. It's just like, they protect me,
Protectors.
But then I've always walked with the peacock. I love the peacock. And she is the perfect example of transmutation and alchemy, taking something that is poison or shadow or dark and transmute it into something that benefits all, right? So she's my teacher, and I'm looking at my life. The very presence of an alchemist is what transforms the dark to the light. The alchemist doesn't even have to do anything. It's just by you being you. When I step into into any room, my energy does the work and people feel it. It is what it is, you know.
It is what it
is what it
is.
is. It activates and it brings in a lot of light. And through that, you know, whatever needs to be transformed, what blockages needs to be removed, whatever needs to be enlightened or illuminated will be. And that is not something that's by me. It's because of my connection to the divine. It comes through from the divine, pours into my heart, radiates through me and outward into the world, and it works through me. But like the Alchemist has always fascinated me, especially when I read the book The Alchemist, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard about that book. I just loved the journey of the Alchemist. We tend to think of the Alchemist as turning lead to gold. And one thing that I learned in the mystery school is that, yes, you can focus on the scientific part of it, you know, how do I transform this lead into gold, which a lot of alchemists has focused on that, especially in the olden days. Is like, how do we do it practical, right?
The gold was the valuable thing.
Yeah, it's like, let's create gold, right? And the main teaching of that is, how do I take my shadow and see the light within the shadow? How do I sit with what is uncomfortable and find what is brilliance in that space?
Yeah.
You know, and that's the arts of the alchemist. I mean, one of it, there's so much more, but that's some of the things that I've observed when the alchemist steps through. And because of that, we tend to be thrown into places where there's more darkness. Like, I'm thinking about when I was young, the gift that I started with. I mean, I've always been what do you call it? Cognizance. Why am I like
claircognizant?
Thank you. Like inner knowing, just knowing. But the main gift that was always to the forefront was mediumship. And I hated Fridays because it was every Friday night when I went to bed, I went to work and I would help. So, you know, with the help, Archangel Mikhail was right next to me, which
yes,
thankful, but that's how I got to know Archangel Mikhail very, very well. But every Friday night I would go to work and I would help souls find the light. And it wasn't always love and light, you know, some of the souls, I'm like, why? So I hated Fridays for the longest time. It wasn't until we came here to the US, this would be when I was 15. I remember going to sleep and I was like, I didn't do anything. And then the next Friday, it's like, we're good. So it's like the mediumship went away and then the channel awoken instead. So yeah, it's like,
wow.
Like
these are new things, that I didn't know about you.
Yeah, it's like I can still perceive the souls, but it's like they see me, I see them, but they don't seek me out to help them because they know my purpose has shifted. So I can still see them, and I also don't feel that that mission to help them cross over or find the light. It's so interesting, but I can still see them, I can still perceive them. And it's like, that I was very grateful that part, because as a child, having that as the main, like your first gift, that's intense.
That's very
really intense. And I'm so grateful that, you know, I didn't have any teacher around me to even let me know what was going on or to help me understand. I mean, I think I'm grateful that I was so in tune with my spiritual self. I was born in that energy. So I had that understanding from there, you know. And Archangel Mikhail always have been with me. Like he would walk with me. He would not do the work for me. He would walk with me and make sure I was safe. So he gave me that space to find my own sovereignty in that work so that I could be confident in that. And as a child, that is huge.
That
That
is a
helped
lot
me.
for
Yeah, it's a lot.
yeah.
It was a lot, but it also helped me build that warrior side of me, that
Mm,
warrior of light, which is part of the alchemist.
mm-hmm.
And he just held the space just to make sure that, I was good, but gave me that space and the freedom to do the work that he knew that I knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
He just, yeah, it was intense, but that was my childhood.
So yeah, wow. I mean, that is really a unique experience. I mean, I think that you were called at that young of an age. I mean, I think a lot of us, maybe we were, but we were too distracted to embrace it. And it sounds like you came in ready to do what you came to do here in this lifetime.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Some of us are a little more slow starters or something, we take a little
Yeah,
while
and
longer,
it's
maybe.
okay.
Yeah.
It's totally okay because I think we're all on our journey and we all have certain gifts that come online at certain aspect of our lives,
This
right?
is true.
So for me, it was the medium and also the healer because that was the on the wake side, like the mediumship was when I went to bed every Friday night.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
did. But the healer was like all day long. And the healer was activated within my mom's womb. I was already
Mm-hmm.
healing my mom when I was in her womb. And she tells me so many stories. I'm like, huh. So I wasn't imagining this, like, oh, okay, that makes sense. One of the things that I would do when I was a child, like if my friend was sick, we lived in a compound home. So, like we grew up with our neighbors were all there. So
Mm-hmm.
when one of my friends would be sick, I would go and sleep in the room where he would sleep and I would take on, like I would get sick and then they would get better
Mm.
and then I will process that sickness. And I even had a
Wow.
prayer, that I would always ask the divine when my sisters would get sick. It's like, let me take on the illness, let me take on the
Oh
sickness
my,
because I
wow.
can handle it. And I
Yeah.
did. I would, if people were aware of what was going on. I mean, one of the things I realized that they thought it was weird that I would always go sleep in their rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on real quick. Excuse me.
No.
Um, they thought that it was always weird that I did that, but I wish that someone was like watching. Let me take a sip real quick.
Yeah, take your time.
Mm. Yeah, and I feel like if someone was aware, they would have caught that and be like, hey, you don't need to take on these things. Like there's a different way to do it. But my prayer would be, let me take on the suffering because I can handle it and let them be free from it. Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, I've heard of, people doing that, but not at such a young, not with such an awareness that you have had, it seems like your entire life. And so now you've come, you know, to a point where it sounds like your alchemy is it shifting again? Or is it what are the stages? You went from mediumship to healer, and I'm
Channel.
sure you still have those gifts
Yes.
with you, but what would you call your medicine now that you are sharing?
I feel like I wonder why the mediumship started because the healer was there.
Okay,
That's
the healer was
yeah,
in the
from the
womb, right?
beginning.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
then the mediumship shifted into channel.
Into
And
channel. Okay.
yeah, and the channel was more, for me, it felt like a deeper awareness of what was beyond what I was seeing, what I was hearing. beyond the physical senses. So I could look at someone and all of a sudden, I always say that it's like the entire life book opens up to me. I can see their past life, their guides. I can see their future life. Like everything opens up to me. And I remember growing up, I was like, this is cool. I can tell them everything, like whatever. And, when I was younger, it was just more of like, oh, that's interesting. I would keep it to myself. There was no need to share it unless someone asked me, then it will come out. And I think as a child, we have a better way of bringing through information. Like we don't have to do anything. It just comes through when it needs to. Yeah. It's when, as we're growing, that's when we start to be like, okay, like we have so much rules around it.
Worry.
Yeah. Yeah,
we
exactly.
Start to worry.
Yeah, because most of my, probably till 20 something, it was like 20, it was my college years. Yeah, I was in my college years. And I remember one of my friends in particular, like he would ask me for an advice. I would tell him, and I would get comments like, you sound like an encyclopedia, walking encyclopedia, or a walk-in self-help book. And before that, I didn't even know what a self-help book was. I was still in college. Self-help didn't even come in until after I graduated college. And, like I would get stuff like that. And also he wouldn't listen, and he would repeat the pattern over and over and over. It was exhausting. It was exhausting because he would always come back to me, ask me the same question, and I'll give him the same answer. And at some point I was like, I just started to just get quiet and just listen. And I chose not to say anything else. And I remember one point I was like, I've told you everything you need to know. It's up to you. You know what you need to do. I know it's hard, but the answer is not going to change unless you do something. And so at that point I was like, okay, there has to be, because there were people that will give advice and they will apply it and something will shift immediately. And there were those who would just like come back and it's like they just wanted to hear, but they weren't ready to move forward. And so that taught me that there's a place and a time on our journey where we're ready to receive that which we're seeking. And when we are fertile to receive those seeds, right? Because when we receive the seed and we have the right foundation for it, we can plant it and take off with it. But until we get there, it doesn't matter what I know and how much I want to share it. If you're not ready, it's just going to enter here and go through the other ear. Right. And so it was like learning to have grace for others' journey, knowing that I know a lot, but they have to be ready to receive. So it's almost like I created this, is it a filter? I don't even know if it's a filter, where it's like I would check in. So, I mean, when I meet someone, life book opens up, but it's like, what is true for them right now? What is it that they need to hear right now in their life that will support them? And then that's what will come through. And sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it's just like energetic, because I know when they hear it through my mouth, it's just going to enter one ear and the other. But when I infuse them with light codes, infuse with that message, their higher self receives it. And then it unfolds as they're moving through their journeys. It's like a blessing, right? So I learned all these techniques by trial and error,
Yeah, experimentation.
Yes. Exactly.
That's part of alchemy, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
Being able to, it's almost like being a, what do they call it? A master blender chef, but like in the kitchen, right? Where you just know the ingredients that you need and in what order to put them and proportions and all of that kind
I think
process.
The Alchemist is the reason why I was always perceived to be older than my years. I mean, I am an old soul, and that came through from very young age. My mom was like, even though you were a baby, I could tell you everything, and I was like, because I did know what was going on, and I could support her, and she could feel it. Growing up, most of my friends were way older than me, very mature than I was, but they would come to me for advice, they'll ask me something and I'll tell them. But for me, I didn't think it was anything because it was natural for me. You ask me something, it just comes through. I don't have to overthink it. I don't have to, it just comes through me. That's the channel part, right? So it just, yeah, it's very interesting. The Alchemist, going back to the Alchemist, I don't know, I just, from the time I heard that word, I was so in love with it for some reason. There's a part of me that identified as the Alchemist before I even knew what the heck that was.
Right.
It's just like, yeah, I am an alchemist. What is an alchemist?
Just has the right vibration to it.
Exactly. Yeah. It just felt
me.
good. It felt,
yeah.
It was like this wisdom to take something. And for me, it always felt like cosmic. It wasn't the physical, the taking lead and changing into gold. I understood that I had to do with the soul level. It was a soul thing. It was a cosmic thing, a divine thing. That's how I always felt. It felt bigger and vast, taking one thing and moving it. It's a journey too. It's like from one space to the other. It's like this journey, and kind of like the butterfly or the moth, or the dragonfly is another one that came into my reality lately, which it blew my mind because I never knew that was their story. It just
an amazing journey of the dragon.
Wow. I was like, no wonder I like you.
They're very magical creatures.
It's incredible. So yeah, I've always aligned with the Alchemist, and in my life, like that's what one of the ways. So in school back home, I don't think they still do it now because they'll probably get in trouble. But back in the days, we got whipped in school. It's like when you're late, you get whipped. It became just something that it was done. You don't really, you just like, For me, it became like a game. I was like, how do I transmute pain into something that I enjoy? That was my first thing. It's like, even getting injections, I was like, how do I transmute this pain into something that is good feeling? And so I would experiment with that, and back then, I don't even know some of the example. It might have been my breath. It might be thinking about something else, but I was able to do that even up till now. It's like, it feels so natural for me because I've been practicing since a very young age. How do I transmute getting an injection, which feels very yucky, to something that is like delightful? And I've been able to do that. And that is the Alchemist. How do I take one thing and change it to something else? How do I take grief and change it into joy, which is another part of my journey? But that one, it wasn't even like a transformation. It was more of an acknowledgement, understanding the root of the grief and how it plays with joy. Because joy is part of my, or what am I looking? It's my innate nature. It is something that I had to understand because I couldn't understand how people could feel such joy from me when I felt empty inside. When I felt cold inside, when I didn't feel any joy in my body. And yet the sun rays of joy just kept pouring out of me, and everyone around me was ecstatic, happy, and they thought I had the best life on this planet, like seriously. And yet I was dying inside. So it took me on a journey of understanding what that was. Why are people experiencing that from me when I'm not even feeling that? Where is that coming from? And so that took me on that journey of going within and understand, that's just part of my soul gift. That's my divine gift. There's nothing I need to do to shift it. I don't even need to feel joyful for it to come through me. It is just who I am. Yeah. And it's so fascinating, So in that case, I had to take that sun ray of joy that is inherent to me and bring it into the grief and allow that to move through the cloudiness of the grief gently and slowly, because of course it's a journey, understanding the grief, ancestral, There was like a lineage behind it, unpacking that. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I still have this sunlight. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful. That alchemy of the sun. That's been coming up a lot, the sun, and a lot of the work I've been doing lately. And changing from lower vitality to the higher frequencies of bliss and joy and all those things. Yeah. Well, I'm going to give your voice a little break because you can get a drink of water, but I would like to kind of play with the Voices of Gaia archetype, the Alchemist, and do a little mini activation for you and our listeners. And let's just see what comes through for that. So it won't take too long. I'm just going to go, it's actually a written activation. But let me just tell you a little bit about what this is for. So, the Voices of Gaia, they're the new Earth leader archetypes, and they're here. There's 8 of them, and they work together. And each person has the capacity to access each one of these archetypes, right? But some are more dominant than others. You've heard this all before in all the different systems. But this one is very, very specific to being a voice of Gaia, to like being here to bring heaven to earth. And the Alchemist is the 5th of the 8. And this is what you were talking about with the mind, like it and things like going through the mind and out the other. The Alchemist in this particular system of the Voices of Gaia, the New Earth leaders, is preparing the mind, of the people who are ready to live in that 5D heart-centered consciousness. And so the Alchemist is here to share the frequency of light, of alchemical transformation through their Voice of Gaia as a New Earth leader. The mission of the Alchemist is to open the mind of each human to create the neural circuitry required to construct the bridge to the new Earth. The Alchemist embodies the essence of transfiguration, awakening, truth, quintessence, silence, immortality, emanation, and beauty. They embody the human gifts of transmutation, initiative, inquiry, simplicity, invention, totality, anticipation, and freshness. They transmute the shadows of oppression, agitation, doubt, complexity, addiction, purposelessness, fantasy, and entropy. So that is your little mini activation with the Alchemist. How did that land for you? Did anything show up, or did you feel anything from that?
The memories, my background, one of my background is in psychology. And I chose it because I love the human brain.
Yeah.
Like I love the physical brain, and I also love how it works. And I've always been curious about how people think, and so when I chose psychology, it was exactly for that. And even now, what I've been diving into, which is the neurographic art, merging the same thing. It's like the neurons in our minds, and changing our way of thinking, our beliefs, and just using art, certain way of drawing the lines and bringing in colors, which is like alchemy in itself. Yes. This art is incredible. And so it made me giggle because I didn't associate that mind aspect with the Alchemist.
Right,
so right. I was like, whoa.
Right, exactly. I know. It's when it came through to me, I was like, wow, yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah.
It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
And it's very precise. The Alchemist is very intentional with
Yes.
what they're doing, to work with the mind, because the
Yeah.
mind is very, tends to be very logical.
Yes.
In this paradigm that
Yes.
out, we move into a more expansive neural circuitry. So yeah, I totally see you as someone who's expanding that neural circuitry for all of us.
Ooh, I love it.
To
I
inhabit
love
those
it.
higher frequencies of joy and bliss, because that's the 5D, right? New Earth, at least
Yes.
in this
Yes.
particular system, looking at it that way, to lead from the heart, to be in your physical body, like totally loving it. It's not perfect, right? But it's perfectly imperfect, but to be anchored in this physical world, but navigating with that expanded brain, right? That conscious, that mind.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful process.
There's that prayer, the great invocation. It's like from the minds of men, let there be light. That sentence, right? It's just one of them, because it goes through the heart, goes through the mind. It's like a whole thing with that. And that part right there, every time I read it, it's just like, oh,
I feel that.
oh my gosh. Because you can feel the emanation. And one of the in one of my rituals is like aligning my mind to my higher mind, or the mind of the divine, or the mind of God. And that's how I operate. When you do that, our minds, like seriously, there's a reason why I'm in love. So I have the human brain, the human mind is like my top love. And then the second is the heart.
Yeah.
Of course, right? Those two. But there's so much more to our minds, our brains, that in order for us to unlock it, we do need to merge heaven and earth within ourselves.
Yes.
When we are stuck in our 3D, our humanity, then it's the brain, the intellect, the strict,
the logical.
Yes, the logical aspect. But when we bring spirit into this part, our brains are like, okay, I can rest. I don't need to be the leader. It wasn't even my job to begin with, right? And it just begins to relax and open up, and it literally becomes this, it looks like a ball of light, this luminescent consciousness.
I see it.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a luminescent consciousness, which is exactly what the divine looks like.
Right.
It's unlimited, infinite. And from there, you can draw anything that you need.
And you're connected to everyone else's.
Everything. It's mind-blowing.
It's orgasmic.
It is. It's so expansive. And you're able to experience this when you merge your heaven and earth, when you merge your divinity with your humanity. And you mentioned you were talking about the human body, and you're like, it might be imperfect. I think the human body is the most perfect of perfection. This is why the second part of my background is biomedicine, or pre-med, and also traditional Chinese medicine, because I wanted to dive into the human body.
Yes.
When you can, I've seen the inside of the human body. I've seen the nerves, the arteries, the organs, and it's like, this is a complex structure that is helping us to walk around and experience this reality. There is nothing little about this body. There's nothing imperfect about this body. It is perfect. It is so beautiful. It blows my mind every day that I can wake up and I can feel the sun on my skin, that I can eat, and this food transforms to nourish me, that I can take in this breath of oxygen that is never ending. I mean, it brings you to your knees in gratitude.
It does.
It just, everything about us is magic. Our human body is magic manifested in this 3D. It's brilliant.
It is brilliant. It's the mind that has to be opened to see beyond the limitations that our society and our collective has set about what is beauty. And that's part of the alchemist, is to shift that perspective, to see
Yeah.
true beauty, right?
Yeah.
Even when you might be experiencing some turbulence in your physical body. I'm not even going to call it anything in particular, but you're alchemizing something, right? You're alchemizing something into a higher vibration if you let it go all the way through, right? And I
Yes.
know that you support people to take it all the way through,
Oh yeah.
all the
There's
way
no
through,
shallow
right?
work here.
Yeah. So
It's
all deep
deep
and
work.
all the way through. So I want to go ahead and bring us back to you, and how can people work with you right now, and reach out to you, or get in your field and see
Yeah.
what it is you're doing right now.
Totally. So the easy way to find me is go to my website, moongoddessacademy.com. And when you go in there, make sure you grab that free gift. It is a meditation that brings you right back to your center. And of course, my meditations, they're dynamic because I say it is one thing, but there's so much more to it. So get
Many
ready to
layers.
receive it. Exactly. And then, yeah, from there, if you're on social media and let's say you want to connect with me through there, my links are on the website. You can find me through that. But yeah, moongoddessacademy.com. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I highly encourage you all to go to moongoddessacademy.com and experience the brilliant alchemy of Abigail. I have. And
Oh man.
she's a shining light of grace and joy. Yeah, you
Thank
really
you.
are. I'm really grateful for you, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy, full, beautiful life to spend a little bit with me and my community. It's always a pleasure to have you
It
here.
is a pleasure. I am grateful to always be in your graceful energy. I just love your energy. I love your goddess nature. Just oh, seriously, it's like the moment we connected, and at the beginning I felt this urge. I was like, oh my God, I just crave being in circle, being in ceremony with sisters, like in person. That's what came through at the beginning. That's what I was feeling in my heart. You always have a way of anchoring me in, like deeper than anyone ever could. And that's why the work that you're doing is just, you have embodied it. Because before you even put it in words, I feel it. I see it. I experience it. And I appreciate that. I love that about you. Love it.
Thank you. I know sometimes I think I'm just waiting for the moment that I get to see more people in person, be with them, and then some real magic.
Yes.
Really phenomenal things are going to shift on this planet.
Yes.
That's the next one, Abigail.
That's the next one. Yes.
Do you have any last words of wisdom to divinely inspire our listeners before we say goodbye?
Take it easy on yourself. This journey that we're on, you do need to have grace for yourself. We're not here to just bliss out the entire. This is not a vacation. Earth is not a vacation. You're gonna get that after this.
Yeah.
We're here to experience to have some really deep experience. Your soul is advanced to be here. Most souls are like, no, thank you, not Earth. I'm gonna go over there instead. You chose to come here. And so yes, you might be moving through some really dense stuff, but you're equipped for it more than you know. So have grace for yourself as you're moving through the tough times. And then when you get into the lighter times, step into even more gratitude. That gratitude will carry you through the next time you have to dive deep into the shadow again. And know that it's just this beautiful seasons or cycles that we move through, and you will move through with grace. So have grace for yourself, step into gratitude, and be gentle with yourself.
Beautiful message. Beautiful, beautiful message. I listened to this wise woman. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to another episode of the Divinely Inspired Woman podcast. And stay divinely connected, divinely inspired, and expressing your divine essence. Much love to you all. Until next time. Bye-bye. I can find, there it is. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Divinely Inspired Woman. Again, I am your host, Patricia Wald-Hopkins, and I am so glad that you joined us here today. I hope you left with some soul food to inspire your daily life. And if you would like to learn more about my work, please check out my website, patriciawaldhopkins.com, and you can find out more about my divinely inspired practice and tools. So, thank you again. Have a beautiful day. Hi. I'm dropping in here with an announcement about a program, a new mentorship that I am offering. It's called Voices of Gaia, and it's about bringing your voice, your leadership, your life in alignment with Gaia's guidance. So if you feel called to learn more about this program, it's a beautiful, rich program where we dive into your essence, and if you so desire, we develop your business around it and really blossom into your whole lifestyle, this wisdom from Gaia that wants to be spoken through you. So if you feel called, reach out to me at patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. That's patricia@patriciawaldhopkins.com. There's no hyphen between Wald and Hopkins. And I would just love to hear from you and see if this is a good fit. So thank you for tuning in. Have a beautiful day.